I'm at the Brevard Veterans Memorial Center here. It's a little memorial center and museum, free to the public. It's located in Merritt Island. So I thought that we'd start today's little walk around with everything on the outside first, and then we'll go inside. So coming through here, kind of did this a little backwards. You probably noticed the orientation of the camera. It's probably not where it should be either, but bear with me. We'll still have a nice little tour of this little free facility here. Really great look at the underside of the gunship here as we swing around to the A7. So as we move along here, we're gonna sneak another peek here at the Cobra and take a good long look back at the single-engine Huey in the medevac configuration. Right here, you can get a good look at the A7E they have on display. Just like the helicopters here, this one actually saw service in Vietnam. Aboard the Constellation from 71 to 74 on a couple different deployments. So we're just going to keep moving along here on the rest of what they have displayed outside. You've pretty much seen it all already. We're just going to get it from kind of the different vantage points around here. But so as we look up here, we're going to get a really good appreciation for the very narrow profile that the Cobra presents. Here's the stone that provides a little background on the Huey in the dust-off configuration. We're going to take a little bit closer look at that. I want you to see if any of you know what this part here does. If you do, leave it in the comments. As we spin around here, we're going to get a better look at probably more of the business end of the gunship. You can see it's pretty much fully loaded with rockets, big cannon out in front, but what I really like is the nose art. I think it looks really great. Another good look at the A7 in the background. We're going to pause and look back real quick and show you that the Cobra actually has a little bit of a surprise in it. They've got a crew inside looking down at you as you come on it. And turn our attention here toward the A7. We're going to walk up on it here, show you this enormous intake scoop. If anybody can tell me what the guys on the flight deck used to nickname the A7, please leave it in the comments. A little information on the airplane itself. And a little example of the ordnance. Okay, with that will pretty much conclude everything that they have out here as far as aircraft static displays. So now we'll move inside. So as we start to move inside here, I noticed this very colorful space shuttle. So in addition to Florida's rich military history, Merritt Island is obviously very close to Cape Canaveral with very, very strong ties to space and space history. So as we come up on the entrance here, we're greeted by this mural of troops disembarking from an Aircav Huey. And you can get a really good look inside at what an old Huey cockpit looks like. So it's a good thing to have a look around. Can't really go inside, but you can definitely stick your head in. And as we come around here, this is right by the entrance to the museum. You obviously won't miss it. We'll see the cross sabers. I know a lot of you guys know exactly what that means. As I said before, our focus is going to be on aviation history, but as a career Navy man, I feel it's worth acknowledging the model of the USS Constitution that greets you when you come in. If you ever have a chance to go see the actual Constitution, or as we know it, Old Ironsides in Boston, I very highly recommend it. I had a chance to go see it myself a couple months ago when I was in town for work. It's definitely worth the trip if you're ever in the area. So as we turn away from the USS Constitution model here, off to our right, kind of just inside, we're going to see a Mark 46 torpedo. This was a kind of torpedo that would have been carried on anti-submarine warfare aircraft until fairly recently. So I've skipped around a little bit here. A lot of really great things in here to see. I just don't have time to show it to you, and I probably just don't know that much about it anyhow. So for the sake of time, we're just going to concentrate kind of right here on stuff like this that's in this case, kind of the aviation stuff. So I was never a bombardier or a navigator, but some of you out there might recognize some of this equipment. I got a couple different types of sextants here. I believe the one we're looking at here is called a bulldog sextant, at least from what I can read on it. Another type of sextant for celestial navigation. Not really done so much anymore. I don't even believe it's really taught. It's all GPS now. But and then you can see kind of the eyepiece for the Norden bomb site. Sorry, and kind of some old World War II era flight equipment. Probably stuff that would have been worn by guys in bombers and high altitudes. And you see the jacket down there. That's very interesting. That's just a leather jacket that's got what's called a blood chit sewn into it. These were very important to downed airmen. It was a good way to communicate with the locals that could hopefully get them back to safety. We'll see another example as we go a little further down toward the Korean War era. So as we turn around here, we're going to notice these signal flags here from the Army Signal Corps. Now, the Army Signal Corps was set up in the kind of pre-Civil War, really, as sort of the original Space Force, if you will. Their job was to find new ways to get signals to the commander on the battlefield. Now, the Signal Corps was not an overnight success by any means. The idea, like I said, was conceived really before the Civil War. During the Civil War, they did some experiments with hot air balloons, kind of the same with the Spanish-American War. None of them worked really particularly well, but they managed to do whatever odd jobs they could to stay viable. Decades later, when this new invention called the airplane came around, they figured it was probably going to be a good way to kind of speed up the pace of information on the battlefield. And long story short, today we have the U.S. Air Force as a result of their efforts. As a little aside, the first airman ever killed in an airplane was a guy named Tom Selfridge. If you're ever on Fort Myer on your way to Arlington Cemetery, there is a little plaque at the Selfridge Gate, which kind of more or less within about probably 50 yards denotes the site of the first Air Force, the first accident in Air Force history, if you will. Of course, that was with the Wright brothers while they were demoing their aircraft. So his gravesite is a big obelisk, not too far down the road from the Selfridge Gate itself. And if you look in the background from the right vantage point, you can actually see rising up from nearby, kind of near where the Pentagon is the Air Force Memorial, which so I kind of see this as a memorial to the first airman lost in an airplane, and the memorial to all the airmen who gave their lives in service, kind of in one shot here. So as we move along here, we'll see this object on the floor. This is just a sextant for celestial navigation. Celestial navigation isn't even really taught to new aviators these days. I don't even know if navigators go through it, but I personally wouldn't even know what to do with this device. So as we move along here, we're going to come to this next case. It's just got a lot of various, German World War II era artifacts in here. A lot of these, they were, everything in this museum has a story. It was usually owned by somebody. They didn't go out and buy it, so it was all donated. So some of this probably came from maybe some German soldiers. Some of it was probably brought home as souvenirs from World War II veterans. But you can see there's some Luftwaffe badging in here, some medals. As we continue down here, there's a ceremonial dagger to kind of take a look at. You can see just a lot going on in the case here, and I just think it really speaks volume of the work that the volunteers do to keep all this stuff remarkably preserved. I certainly won't pretend to be an expert on all of it or even any of it, but maybe there's a few of you out there who know what you're looking at here and can really appreciate it. So now moving quickly along here, skipping over a lot of things, but just for the sake of time. So now we're in the Korean War era. Gonna look in this case here. A lot of really interesting things from the Korean War. For those of you who know, the Korean War, it never really ended. They just stopped shooting at each other. So a lot of these are pretty common. This is barbed wire from the DMZ. I've got one in my office from my very brief time down in South Korea supporting an exercise. But we're going to continue around this case here, which again just shows you really where the technology advanced just in a few years between World War II and the start of the Korean War in 1950. Looking through here, just kind of some generalized things. Obviously, some patrol boats, some equipment. Here's the fun stuff: the whiz wheels, the E6Bs. Remember having to do a lot of really hard work with these that really you don't have to do anymore. I believe they still get taught, but like I said, it's pretty much all GPS these days, but it's good to stay with the basics. Here's my one of my favorite things here. This is just a polished up, painted, refurbished looking piston from an A-26 with the EGA from the Marine Corps on it. Navy blue with some gold stencil. It's pretty sharp looking. So as we move along here, here's another example of what we saw sewn into that jacket in the previous case from World War II. This is a blood chit. You can see it's got the American flag, so they know what nationality the service member would be, and some very basic phrases written in a bunch of different languages that you would be likely to encounter. These are probably more common with pilots. Or just air crew in general, if you ever had to bail out over unfriendly territory. And then, of course, moving down here, you've got an unguided rocket, which obviously the difference between a rocket and a missile is the guidance system. But these were really developed during World War II, more common during Korea. And then, we've probably all seen images of these being launched out of Cobras and Huey gunships during Vietnam and later. But okay, before we move on, if any guys can tell me what that blue band on this display is, drop in the comments. So now kind of right behind that, we're continuing on with the Vietnam War. All this stuff in the case here is just artifacts that were actually taken from, once again, either brought home as souvenirs or donated later by Vietnam veterans. I think the most notable thing in this case, at least for me, is this piece right in front of me. This brick here from the Hanoi Hilton. Some of you probably are familiar with the movie or have at least read the books. Senator John McCain had a pretty good account of kind of what life there was like, and it was not good. But here it is preserved for all of us to remember. As we move through Desert Storm, we're going to look down here and notice this optical targeting pod from the Cobra gunship that is on display outside on the stand that greets you as you drive into the museum. You can read it on the sign there. It's a good close-up look at it. The Marine Corps still uses a modern variant of the Cobra. Army obviously replaced their Cobras with Apache gunships. Move along here, you can see the typical flight suit and apparatus that an S-3 Viking crew member would wear. The S-3 Viking was a Kind of a jack of all trades, designed for anti-submarine warfare. It later became a tanker. There's even an effort to make it a strike platform in the last Gulf War. By far the most famous mission of the VS community was flown by the Blue Wolves of VS-35 when they brought George W. Bush aboard Abraham Lincoln in May of 2003 so he could deliver his mission accomplished speech. I was actually at work at the squadron at North Island that day, at a different squadron, my Hilo squadron, and it's pretty interesting watching the whole thing go down the way it did. In the years since, all the S3s have been moved out to the boneyard at Davis Mountain in Tucson. Here's some footage I took back in, I think around 2011, so a while back, of all the S3s sitting out there. They weren't able to find another purpose. They were hoping maybe to go to the Forestry Service, but the parts were obsolete, so it just wasn't cost effective for them. So unfortunately, this is the last stop for a lot of them, including this example from the Blue Wolves from VS-35. The S3 Viking from VS-35 that served as Navy 1 escaped the scrap heap as depicted here and is currently on display at the National Naval Aviation Museum in Pensacola, Florida. Leave a comment if you know the nickname of the S3 Viking based on the sound that its engines would make. As we move along here, we'll see what's probably the world's tallest jet pilot, complete with the oxygen mask and the speed jeans, the G suit. Probably not a comfortable day in the life of this guy at work. So as we make our way here to the Desert Storm case, obviously a lot of artifacts in here to go through. Desert Storm was a kind of a unique blend of Cold War technology and kind of emerging technology. So a question for the group is, who can tell me what space-based weapons system made its debut live on CNN during Desert Storm? Here's a hint, you'll probably use it if you ever decide to come visit this museum. It was another weapon that kind of made its debut during that war. That was the Tomahawk land attack missile. So we make the turn here. Going to come upon this next item of interest, especially for me as a former helicopter guy. This is a damaged Humvee windshield from the Battle of Mogadishu. I think everybody's probably seen the movie Black Hawk Down. You can see the book right next to the artifact here, but really good indication of what those guys went through trying to fight their way out of a bad situation. You can see a reflective belt, probably responsible for saving tens of millions of Army and Air Force lives in combat zones. I'm joking about that, of course. So as we make our way upstairs, there's 3 total floors here at the museum. Kind of see a Air Force Pave Hawk there, along with some various plaques from different military units. Some of these were to commemorate different deployments. Others were kind of given as a parting gift for people who were PCSing on to their next command. PCS is military speak for moving, for those of you wondering, and usually just given to commemorate all the fun you just had over the last 3 to 4 years of your life. So upstairs you can see we've got various military uniforms on display. Here's a female in a Navy dinner mess dress. Next to her, a non-deployable female. That's a joke, everybody, relax. Then the Merchant Marine. Here we see a corpsman from HMM 364, which is the Purple Foxes. They're now VMM 364. They moved on from the H-46 to the Osprey some years ago. And of course, a compass repeater, like you'd see on board just about any Navy vessel. So as we move along, we're going to come to what I think is one of the more interesting pieces in this entire building. A lot of people probably walk right by it, but it really caught my eye immediately. And that's this shadow box from HTU-1. HTU-1 was the very first helicopter training squadron for the U.S. Navy, set up at Ellison Field. Prior to that, they kind of just trained in-house helicopter pilots, but during the Korean War, demand had grown so exponentially that they actually had to set up a separate squadron. And now those squadrons are still in existence up at Whiting Field, still up in the Pensacola area, up in Milton. This case here is dedicated to a very small group of CIA contract pilots and air crew known as Air America. Some of you may have heard of them. For those that have not, they did a lot of work during the Vietnam War that Americans could not admit to doing. A lot of really cool things in here. I'll just be quiet for a few seconds and let you have a look. As we move along, you see some what we call shadow boxes. It's just a collection of various awards, other types of basically just historic personal keepsakes of one's career in the military. See some pretty accomplished service members here. There you can see a sign for U.S. Naval Air Station, Banana River. As we know, that today is Patrick Space Force Base, located not too far away from this museum. I was on Patrick Space Force Base not too long ago to witness a launch here from the Space Coast, and came across this plaque dedicated to a crew that was lost from Banana River, actually looking for the lost squadron from Fort Lauderdale. They were a squadron that was of Avengers that was lost in the Bermuda Triangle. Closer look here at one of these. You can see this gentleman has earned a Silver Star. Down here, see a few of these others. Pretty neat that these things stay here so well preserved. Now we move along here over to the port. The port kind of is a very busy place. It can be a fun place for a lot of people leaving on cruise. It's also a weapons station where they do a lot of testing. And of course, Elon Musk keeps all of his SpaceX equipment right there. A lot of times, if you're on a cruise, you'll go right past it on your way out to have fun. And that's going to transition right into up next here is, of course, on Merritt Island. We are more or less right there on the Space Coast, right next to, very close to Cape Canaveral, close to Kennedy Space Center. So a lot of space goes on here. A lot of really important space history. Was out here trying to watch the watch SpaceX launch their crew into space a few years ago, but it got scrubbed and we didn't make it out to the second one. So unfortunately, we missed it. But large crowd, it always brings a lot of excitement. You can see here are the final plaques for when they retired. The Space Shuttle program, the last missions on all of these. Each of these shuttles is still on display somewhere. Endeavour is out in Los Angeles. Discovery is on display at the Udvar Hazy Center out in Dulles, out in Washington, D.C. And Atlantis is just a few miles down the road at the Kennedy Space Center. You can get a really good look at it here. It's a really great tour. A few more space-related items here. Just let you have a little look. So we're going to come across this case here filled with challenge coins. Now there's some dispute as to where challenge coins got their origin. The one I heard of was World War I. There's a little sign here you can read about. Not going to cover the whole thing, but today these are used by military and first responders have adapted them. They get traded, and sometimes they'll actually be handed out by more senior officers as sort of a token of appreciation. For those of you out there who have your own challenge coin collection, be interested to know what's your favorite coin that you have. So as we make our way back toward the stairs here, we'll see some service-specific cases with some artifacts that kind of tell the story of the history of that specific service here in really specifically to Central Florida, but more all over. You start with the Coast Guard. Coast Guard is very important to Florida in general, but especially here in Central Florida. See here, this is a model of their training ship at the Coast Guard Academy, the Coast Guard Cutter Eagle. I actually had a chance to go on and tour it several years back. It's a pretty remarkable ship. Now here in Florida, the Coast Guard works pretty closely hand in hand with the Navy doing things like counter-drug operations. During World War II, they would actually man Navy ships. This famous photograph called Into the Jaws of Death was actually taken from a Coast Guard photographer from a Coast Guard manned ship on D-Day. During World War II, it was the Coast Guard that developed a new technology called the helicopter into an anti-submarine warfare and a life-saving platform for the Navy. The Coast Guard was part of the Navy at that time, and they really wanted to develop the helicopter for their life-saving purposes. But the Navy had a bigger problem, namely submarines sinking cargo ships off the coast of places like Florida. The Coast Guard came up with an idea of using helicopters in the convoy to spot submarines, and the rest is more or less history. So moving along here, you can see the Air Force display at the museum. Air Force obviously very significant to Central Florida. Here on Merritt Island, where I am, we have Cape Canaveral Space Force Base. Just to the south in Melbourne, Florida, is Patrick Space Force Base. For those of you who might fly into Orlando International Airport, that is the former McCoy Air Force Base. The B-52 parked there is a really good place to get up close to a B-52. Moving along, you see the Marine Corps exhibit. Really good look at a leather bomber jacket. They still issue these. These are still worn by modern day Navy Marine Corps aviators. All right, now we're moving on to Navy. First thing you're going to see is a bunch of ships and submarines. Orlando, just down the road here from Merritt Island, actually used to be home to Navy Nuclear Power Training Command. It was where all the new sailors who were going to man the submarines and other nuclear-powered vessels would start their career. That's where they would learn the basics of the reactor. Of course, here you got some aviator gear. Naval aviation, not so much a thing here in Central Florida anymore, but absolutely so up in Jacksonville and the Mayport area. And Orlando used to be a home for recruit training as well, for brand new Navy recruits making their way into the fleet. And not to be left out of the aviation tour here, here's the Army. Of course, we saw the Huey and the Cobra gunship outside. We can see the helmet down here, be worn by an Army pilot. All right, so now we're making our way up to the third floor. This isn't going to be really aviation specific. It's really more about Pearl Harbor, but definitely worth showing off in this video. You just kind of see there's a Battle of Midway there. First thing that's going to greet you is right in front here. That is a piece of teak wood from the deck of the battleship Missouri, which is obviously where the instrument of surrender was signed by the Japanese, which ended World War II. Now, if you ever go to Pearl Harbor and take a tour of the battleship Missouri, you can actually stand on the exact spot where the instrument of surrender was signed. Now I'd like to draw your attention to this 3D map of Pearl Harbor. And look over here at Ford Island. I want to see if you can find USS Utah. There's a well-kept secret on Ford Island across from where the Arizona sits. It's the USS Utah. You need base access to see it. It's not part of any of the regular tours. USS Utah was a training ship that some believe was hit by mistake on Pearl Harbor, but just like the Arizona, many attempts were made to raise it and failed, so it remains in place to this day as something that you can see. So now we have this piece of steel from USS Arizona. So really symbolic thing here, obviously, is that the Arizona sits directly across from where the teakwood deck is from the Missouri. So you have the beginning of World War II and the end of World War II sitting next to each other. And if you ever have a chance to go to Pearl Harbor, you'll notice that that is the exact configuration of the USS Arizona Memorial and the USS Missouri Museum. And so we make our way back downstairs from Pearl Harbor. Right here is the 9/11 exhibit, which for veterans of a certain age was absolutely our Pearl Harbor. And we will conclude our tour. We're just looking at some beautiful trench art here. And if you enjoyed what you saw here today, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And definitely come check this place out.